Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, June 25th, 2017. Fire potential impacts are expected over the Great Basin starting today and continuing through Monday into Tuesday. For today, we're expecting some isolated thunderstorms along far western Nevada. We could see some isolated thunderstorms pop up over southern Utah as well, however they will be quite isolated in nature. On Monday, that moisture and thunderstorms move into the central and northern Great Basin with highlights over northeast Nevada and southwest Idaho. We will see thunderstorms move into northern and eastern Idaho and western Wyoming as well, but they'll be on the wetter side. Gusty winds will also move into much of the western and southern Great Basin on Monday. Generally sunny skies with light winds were observed yesterday. A smattering of new fires occurred yesterday across northern Nevada, Utah, and southwest Idaho. And the Brian Head fire remains quite active. Current ERCs show very high values continuing across the southern Great Basin and eastern Utah with values above the 90th percentile and edging up on the 97th percentile. Values are quite a bit lower across the northern half of the area. Shown here are the 10-hour fuel moistures, which are fairly low across much of the Great Basin, which may be more representative of fire potential in the predominantly grass fire areas. Sagebrush live fuel moistures are shown here for southern Idaho and western Nevada. Values in these areas remain at or above normal for the time of year. This morning's satellite imagery shows an area of high pressure in place across the western U.S. and an area of low pressure off the California coast. A little bit of moisture has moved up along the western periphery of the Great Basin. This is causing some cloud cover over the southern and western Great Basin and may lead to some very isolated thunderstorms this afternoon. By this afternoon, that band of mid-level moisture will move into central Nevada and southwest Utah, which may or may not result in a few very isolated thunderstorms. No high-risk triggers have been issued for today. Very hot conditions persist, particularly over western Great Basin and up into western Idaho as well. Highs will be near 100 and 101 in Reno, with highs in the mid to upper 90s in Boise. Generally sunny skies are expected across much of the Great Basin, except for portions of far western Nevada and southern Utah, where some isolated thunderstorms are possible. On Monday, the center of the high pressure is shifted eastward over the Great Basin as an area of low pressure drops into the Pacific Northwest. This will bring more moisture into the northern Great Basin for an increase in thunderstorm activity, as well as strong southwest winds into portions of western and southern Great Basin. Highlights have been issued for lightning over southwest Idaho and northeast Nevada, and for wind across much of Nevada and southern Utah. Isolated thunderstorms are possible over portions of northern Utah during this time period as well, but they may be just too isolated to include in the high risk. Expected thunderstorm coverage is shown here on the left, with the afternoon wind gusts on the right. Winds will be quite gusty over northern Nevada and particularly southwest and southern Utah. On Tuesday, the area of low pressure quickly scoots off to the east, bringing dry, generally westerly flow into the Great Basin. Winds will remain quite strong over southern and southeast Utah on Tuesday, and we have triggers out for those areas. Thunderstorms may continue across the far northern and northeast portions of the Great Basin, and gusts are expected to remain 30 to 35 miles an hour over southern and southeast Utah. Precipitation will generally be limited to the northern border of the area for the next 3 days. On Wednesday, warm and dry conditions will persist across the far southern Great Basin, with more mild temperatures expected across the north. On Thursday, more of the same is expected, with higher relative humidities and cooler temperatures on the far northern border of the Great Basin, with continued very warm and dry conditions across the south. This pattern generally continues into Friday, although a little bit more moisture may squeak into portions of the eastern Great Basin, but dry, warm conditions will persist across the south. On Saturday, an area of low pressure moves into the Pacific Northwest and the northern Rockies, which will likely bring an increase in wind to the southern Great Basin and another shot of showers and thunderstorms across the north. 7-day totals don't change much from the 3-day precipitation totals, as the second half of the period will generally be fairly dry, particularly over Utah and Nevada. The extended forecast from the Climate Prediction Center is calling for above normal temperatures expected across the Great Basin, with below normal precipitation, especially over Utah and Idaho. This forecast should indicate a lack of deep monsoonal moisture moving into the southwest U.S. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.